What's up, team? In this video, I'm going to be taking you through a very specific process for how you can build and design your life structure. Now, by the end of this video, you're going to have a clear structure for yourself in how you can approach and design your quarters, your quarterly 90-day sprints in life, and also how you can start to set up and design your weekly structure so you have clarity for how to actually move forward and make sound progress in your life. And the reason why this stuff that I'm about to teach you is so valuable, and the reason why I have taken my clients through this process time and time again over the years in working with thousands of entrepreneurs is because all of us at some level, and you can really analyze yourself in your own life, all of us at some level struggle to create order in the chaos, okay? And this is really the balancing point that we can actually start to achieve order within the chaos in our everyday life so we can advance, so we can create what we want and really make sound progress in our life. So at the end of the day, the reason why I like to create a life structure is because a lot of my personal work and a lot of work of my clients, it's all about creating flow in your life so you can create amazing things, so you can innovate in the world, so you can advance in your career and create value. But a lot of that value is oftentimes going to be created from the yin energy, the feminine creative energy, where you're able to tap into deep flow states on a consistent basis. But have you ever noticed when you're going to create something great, right? Or you want to create a course, you want to create a new business, you're trying to build new content for marketing, or you want to write a book one day, or you want to run workshops, you'll notice that your ability to actually get in the zone and to create things that are truly innovative, you have to be in a really calm, peaceful state of mind, okay? And that's because the creative energy comes from your heart. It comes from your true essence of who you are. But in order to tap into those brain waves, those brain frequencies, and that higher state, that higher consciousness that can allow the creative flow to come through you, you've got to settle the mind, the planning, strategic, anxious mind that sometimes can run rampant and hold us back from creating what we truly desire and advancing in our life. Now, I know this very intimately because I personally have experienced the struggle in life between balancing out like the creative pursuits where, there's no distractions, you're only focused on the one thing, and your time just like basically stops and all of your consciousness gets put into your creative pursuit. But in order to do that, you have to create some stability in your everyday life in the form of a structure, and you need a level of planning in place to be able to achieve that. Because when we're always worried about what we need to do and we're always anxious, like, just only living, in the day without a structure in place, when we go to get into creative pursuits and build things and create amazing things, our life can tend to just turn into absolute chaos because, the world keeps moving around us, and we've got to basically put a structure in place that can allow us to create a higher degree of peace in our life so we can focus on the most important things in our life too. So this is really, at the end of the day, creating like a balance of yin and yang in our life where, the yin side of life, as I mentioned, is really the creative energy, the feminine energy that goes in the flow. It's more passive, where you're slowing down, you're not doing as many things, you're not thinking as much, you're just really getting into your feeling, your heart center. Whereas the yang side of life is the masculine energy. That's the driving force. That is progress, advancement. That is really like building systems and structure and planning within your life to keep your life on the rails to a degree. So there is no right or wrong, there is no good or bad. And it's important to understand and start to acknowledge, are you more mentally driven or are you more feeling driven? And just a default way you can really understand this is typically if you're a female, you're gonna naturally have more feminine energy, more creative energy, where you're gonna be in your feeling much more of the time. And typically, men are much more mentally driven, okay? So this is a video to help you find the balance in your own life so you can maximize your own performance and creative endeavors, because at the end of the day, our quality of life is always going to be down to our ability to create valuable things in the world, because we get rewarded based on the value that we create for others. And it doesn't really matter at all what creative pursuits that you personally choose. What matters is you being able to get into the flow and get into the zone when you want to, and also not keep your life on the rails when you're pursuing those things, so your life doesn't fall to shit, which can create tremendous amounts of stress and anxiety. And stress is the absolute killer of creation, okay? So what we're gonna now address is getting clear on your quarterly structure and your weekly structure, okay? And the quarterly structure is gonna be all about looking at the macro, the macro cycles of your life. How are you designing your life and creating structure to allow for flexibility as you move throughout your days, so you're not too rigid in your approach to life, because rigidity is going to hamper creative flow as well, and it's not going to allow you to really innovate in the world. So when it comes to quarterly structure, and by the way, I don't want to necessarily claim that this is the only way to design your life. There's many ways, many people have different inclinations, but this is a structure that still allows for a lot of flexibility to allow you to design your life however you please. So I encourage you to go through this, apply the work, and experiment if you choose to. But if it doesn't resonate with you at all, it's like you've also got to go with your own. You've got to be able to navigate your own life, okay? And you've got to make decisions based on what's going to work best for you personally. So this is a process that I found has worked for thousands of entrepreneurs to actually keep their life on the rails. Because if you're someone that wants to advance holistically in life, okay, where you're not just going to be a one-dimensional douchebag, just only focused on one thing in life, like growing your business at the expense of family, at the expense of your health, at the expense of your spiritual growth, then this is for those who want to actually find a sound way to move forward and make advancements in your life across the areas of your mindset, your body and your physical health, your spiritual development, and cultivating deeper connection to source, to spirit, and cultivating meaning in your life, and also really creating deep and meaningful connections in your relationships intimately with yourself, your partner, your family, your friends, and then also creating meaningful work in your business. But all of those things, to actually advance in all areas, it requires a fair amount of discipline to stay on top of it all. So this is what this weekly structure is going to, or the life structure is going to help you with, so then you can set up processes, systems, frameworks for yourself to advance in all other areas. So now, when we look at quarterly structure, what I like to do is, first and foremost, I like to always schedule in and block out time for my recovery and my planning, okay? Because if we're not reflecting on what's happened in the past, reflecting on our previous strategy across like the previous quarter, then we can't really identify like what's working and what's not working, okay? So we need to always have basically checkpoints in which we can always, at the end of the day, basically zoom out and look at the big picture to assess what is actually working, what's not. And that allows us, this system and this structure allows us to essentially meet those checkpoints every quarter to really change what we need to in our life. Because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, right? So this is about assessing what are we doing that's not working, so we can change it, and we can actually put a plan in place for the next quarter to really perfect this area of our life. And then what is working, so we can actually amplify it, so we can do more of it to get greater results in our life and grow exponentially, not just linearly. Now, with quarterly structure, what I personally like to do, and what I found a lot of other people like to do, is create basically a gap or a space at the end of your quarter, or you can choose when that's going to be in your life. But I select a quarterly basis because I like to go typically with the equinoxes of time and the world, and also I orientate them towards the back end of each quarter, so I at least have four rest and recovery periods in my life that I can catch myself to change what I need to change at the right time, all right? So it doesn't, my problems don't continue to carry on for years because I've been failing to address what's not working. So on a quarterly basis, I look at the end of each quarter and I like to plan out a 7 to 10 day trip. And if you don't have money or cash to actually afford 4 trips a year to go out of state or out of country, then just plan a local trip for yourself, okay? The point is, in this time frame, what you want to do is get out of your current environment to get a higher perspective on life. Because when you're in your environment, you're susceptible to your normal routine, your normal behaviors, your normal patterns of thinking and ways of doing things. And when you're doing that, you can really struggle to get a higher perspective on actually what you need to change. So typically it's going to look like this. It's, creating a structure for yourself where you're planning out like a holiday, or you might call that a vacation if you're American, holiday. And this is typically going to be 7 to 10 days. So there's actually a template below this video. I wouldn't worry about it now. I recommend watching this video all the way through first. Then you can pull up the template. And what I've included for you is essentially a document with an outline of how to create your quarterly structures and your weekly structure. And then I've also included a war map, which is basically built on an Excel spreadsheet in which you can start mapping out and blocking off days within your quarters to plan for rest and relaxation and recovery and planning time, okay? Because remember, at the end of the day, our ability to get in the zone and get into work is all about our ability to recover and get out of it. So in this holiday period, I always like to plan when I am out of my current environment, right? I like to get more energized. I like to get inspired. I like to think bigger. And typically a plane always does that for me, right? When I'm up in the clouds, I'm thinking bigger, I'm inspired about new things. Ideas, when you're in that relaxed state, ideas will come to you, okay? And ideas are really the greatest asset within the entire world. So what we want to do when we're planning is to get into a nice, relaxive, fun state where we're going and adventuring, we're seeing new things, we're basically building new neural pathways in our mind in which we can start designing our next quarter from. So the holiday is going to make up 7 to 10 days. It can honestly even be 5 to 10 days. Like, you pick what's going to be most effective for you. And then what I like to do is, once I've designed that, is you're going to allocate each quarter 2 to 3 days of planning time, like actual planning time. So then when you're on your holiday and you're feeling good, you're inspired, you can actually pull up, like your document, your journal, spreadsheets, whatever you want to, and start mapping out your next quarter. Then on a monthly basis, what works really well is typically taking a long weekend off per month, okay? And this allows us to just reset our system. So on a monthly basis, we can then look at, what's been working for the month and what do we need to change for the next month so we continue to win in our quarters. Because if something's not working on a monthly basis, or like for the past month, well, we need to catch ourselves and address that. So it's like creating a smaller container in which we can revamp and redesign things and change things that aren't working so we don't blow out and have a terrible quarter, okay? So what I like to do here is I like to plan out like a mini trip. A mini trip for yourself, and this, you totally pick what works for you, but I would definitely recommend at least 3 days to 5 days. And this can be like a local trip or a staycation somewhere close. You can drive somewhere within the vicinity, or take a quick weekend trip by plane somewhere as well, and just go do some fun stuff and really re-energize your soul, your spirit. And then what I like to do is my planning time and my review on a monthly basis, it's typically going to be about 1 day, right? 1 full day of reflection and planning out the next month, because you should have done your big planning in here in the quarterly basis, and this is just a recap. This is a revamp to see if anything needs to change and to review your current results for that quarter. And then on a weekly basis, what I like to do is essentially plan some sort of fun day or fun activity. And this is going to be 1 day. And then your planning time on a weekly basis, your reflection and planning, literally should take about 30 minutes to an hour. And that's really going to allow you to create a system where you're keeping yourself on the rails. It's like train tracks, okay? So if you're moving forward in life, the rails are what's going to keep us moving forward in the direction in which we want. As soon as a rail breaks off, as soon as we don't have these rails and these boundaries in place, well, that's where we can get into way too much yin, where we're just in the flow with zero structure in our life, and that's where chaos is going to basically come forth and breed itself, all right? And this is your process in which you can use to create order amongst the chaos. So an activity for you now, if you want to pause the video, is going to be planning out, like, okay, pulling up your calendar, pulling out a journal, what dates and what trips do you want to go on each quarter, because there's going to be around 4 of those per year. What mini trips are you going to take each month? And then what fun activity are you going to plan for yourself or you and your family each week to really just reset and recover and get inspired again to then get back into your work that you love on a weekly basis. And that's going to allow you to create long-term sustainability over time. Now, the next piece that we're going to get into is really the game changer. This is really the kicker. So what I like to do is, with our weekly structure, right, our days are made up of activities. That's all it is, right? Because each day we're starting the day with a state of being, our energetic state of being, our energetic vibration. And then we carry that vibration into every activity that we do, because we live in a physical realm where we have physical things to do and things to keep up with and maintain in our life. And you know, a lot of that can create a lot of busyness in our life. But if we just allow our life to, you know, go with the flow too much, where we're just going from one activity to the next, well, we might not actually ever create and design the time for us to really move the one thing forward, the main thing that's going to advance our life to the next level. So the different categories that I like to create, the different blocks that I like to create for myself, is to look at my different activities across each area that I'm about to explain here. So typically when you look at your day, right, you've got your morning segment, then you've got your nighttime segment, like your ramp up, your morning routine, and then you've got your wind down routine at nighttime. And these are your blocks of the day, okay? So those are really important. We're going to talk about those in a minute. But then when we get into the workday, that's typically, we open that up for many hours, right? It can be, some of us work for 4 hours a day, some of us work for 6, 8, 12, 16, whatever yours is. This is about looking at what activities that you're performing during your workday. So first and foremost, let's start with morning routine. Then we've got night routine. Then I'll tell you what activities to put in here in a moment. But beyond that, the way I like to split up my work is I want to split it into 3 or really 2 categories with an extra category on the end. And that is production. So your production activities are the main things in your business or your work that's going to advance things forward more than anything else. Because in life and business, typically what most of us do, and the habits that most of us get into, is we get into work in our laptop every day, right? And then we basically pull up the laptop and we're like, what do I need to do? And typically it starts with like email, admin, a bunch of random shit that, you know, pulls us out of our creative flow state. And then we just continue doing that, and we just basically churn out task after task after task. And then we go through our weeks, our months, our quarters, our years, and we're like, fuck, what did I actually advance in my career or business? It's like, I've been doing so much work, but I'm not actually gaining and creating exponential results for myself that are compounding over time. So your production blocks of time are really about designing time and space for yourself to only focus on those key activities that are going to move your business and life forward like nothing else will, okay? And if you've ever read the book, The One Thing, then this is about that. It's about identifying what your one thing is in business and only focusing on that when this time block comes up. And in the next video, we're going to focus on how to actually time block and how we're going to basically map out each activity and put them on the calendar. So then when we look at our weeks, we know exactly what we're doing and when we're doing it. And that's going to create consistency in our brain to allow for getting into those intense work periods to get more done in less time. And this is really the key to performing at elite capacities in your work. So then I'll explain what type of activities typically go here. Then we've got our maintenance activities. And these maintenance activities are not necessarily going to drive growth in the business or add more value to things, but they're going to make our life easier and they're going to keep the business moving forward. They're going to keep the wheels spinning, okay? Because if we only focus on production and we just forget our maintenance tasks, you know, like a lot of the busy work, then the business can eventually create problems in itself just by us not focusing on it, and it can collapse and basically break over time. And then the last and final piece is we've got recovery. We have recovery activities because, as I mentioned, our ability to get in the zone and work really well and really productively, it's all about our ability to get out of the zone and recover our mind, body, spirit, and also create deep connections in our relationships so all other areas of our life are sorted when we get into these two big columns here, the two big segments of our main production activity and our maintenance activity. Now, what you can actually do, and I'm going to talk more about this in the next video, but with your production activities in your business, what you can do is actually create either day blocks where you're only focused on those activities, or if your schedule's not as flexible and you can't just allocate an entire day to production, then you can actually create like morning blocks or evening blocks, work blocks for yourself, where you're now only focused on the one thing, the main thing in life, all right? So what I want to do now is, what I'd like you to do is write down, and you can pause this video to do it. If you really want to get the most out of this video, I'd recommend doing it, but write down everything that you do in your morning. Like, what does your morning routine look like? Write every activity down. What does your nighttime routine look like? Write every activity down and put it in a column. Then, in terms of your work, you might not know and understand the difference between production activities and maintenance activities yet, but before I go into that, write down all of the activities and all of the functions that you have to perform on a daily basis or a weekly basis inside of your business. And then what we're going to do is you're going to start to circle and block out and identify similar like tasks. And all of the production tasks that you identify as a production task, you're going to put in this column, and then all of the maintenance tasks are going to go here, okay? So for example, your morning routine might be something like this. It might include waking up, obviously. It's going to include like some form of, not everyone's the same, but for me, it's always going to include exercise. It's going to include a nice nutritious breakfast. It's going to include grounding out in nature, getting my bare feet on the ground outside. It's going to include things like playing with the dog. It's going to include a meditation and breath work, and also some visualization for how I want my day to go, okay? So you're going to identify what are the main, and the whole point of the morning routine is to get you into the zone so you can perform at your highest capacity in the workday, okay? Or with whatever your main thing is. And then your night routine, it's going to be things that are really like more relaxing and restorative for you so you can really start to wind down at a greater level. So for me, my nighttime wind down, I'm definitely going to do some like planning, and that's going to be relaxing. It's like I'm planning the next day, the night before. Then it's going to be obviously eating something healthy. Then it's going to be spending time with partner, daughter, and dog. Keep the dog happy. And then typically it can include anything else, like maybe some reading. But the whole point of this is really to like start identifying the key actions that you want to perform in your morning. Like, what is your dream morning routine? Get clear on what that looks like for yourself. Then at night, get clear on what does your optimal evening look like, and start to include those activities in, because the better you feel in the morning and night, the better you're going to feel throughout the day, because these are going to be your reset points, okay? So You want to make sure that, you might have to keep up with a bit of life admin in these segments as well, and that's totally fine, but start to create the most optimal and ideal order and sequence for yourself in which you want to conduct all these different activities. Then in your production activities, these are going to be the things that drive the business forward, okay? And these are going to be different for you, so you can completely customize these to your liking based on all of the activities that you have to perform in your business. But this is going to typically look like, for me, I prioritize building product. So building product and perfecting my product. So for me, that looks like either platform development, course module development, and that's pretty much the two main functions that go into my product, okay? And then if I'm really in a systems building mode, then systems can maybe like introduce themselves here as well. Then the other two ones are going to be your marketing. So this could be like organic marketing material, so creating marketing assets. And a marketing asset could literally be like social media posts, any pillar piece of content that you need to develop to keep people getting attention on your stuff and coming through the doors. That is what's going to be a major factor in driving growth. So you need to make sure that you're planning out blocks of time each week to focus on getting that stuff in order and building those things consistently over time. And then really the other main one as a core production thing is going to be your sales. So if you're creating basically an inbound strategy where you're running ads, and this could be ads, you're running organic marketing, and you've got people coming to you, well, it's about optimizing your sales and maybe taking sales calls. If you're in a mode where you are basically starting up and you're fresh in business, well, a lot of your initial sales growth is going to basically rely on your ability to create relationships and connect with others and start talking with people, getting feedback, conducting calls with them, to really see how you can help and if you can help them, and converting them into a client. So that is typically like what a coaching or consulting business is going to look like. Based on your unique business model, it's going to differ for you. Another example is if you've got like, maybe you're at a point where you've got a big team, okay? And your biggest production activity is going to be creating systems and workflows that are training your people and developing talent within inside your team and hiring. So that's another mode that you could be in, because there's your production activities are basically going to change based on the level and size of your business, okay? So write all of those main things down. And if you're questioning whether it is going to move the needle forward in your business, it probably isn't. So just get rid of it. That's not going to be aligned for your production day activities. Then you've got maintenance, okay? So maintenance, classic stuff. Typically what I put here, just to simplify the structure, is this is going to be, planning. Like, this is a very highly leveraged activity, but I do it very consistently. So for me, it's more of a maintenance thing now. This can be like systems upkeep. This can be support, emails, admin. For me, I do a lot of like coaching calls in the business, and that's just a consistent thing, like a maintenance thing that I got to keep up with. So for me, Q&A, coaching calls, answering client questions. So these are the things that are going to keep the business moving forward, because if I wasn't keeping up with my systems, if I wasn't doing my Q&A coaching calls, well, my clients would start to get pretty shitty with me, right? So this is all about just creating basically chunks and blocks where you can start to segment and group similar activities together. So on your maintenance days, you can just jam it out as fast as possible and as effective as you possibly can. Then you've got recovery, and your recovery is going to be here. So it's going to be when you're taking your holiday, it's going to be when you're taking a mini trip, and it's going to be on a weekly basis where you're taking at least one. Now, depending on who you are and your ideal state, Your weekly time off of recovery could be like 1 to 4 days. Maybe you don't even work, I don't know. It could be 1 to 3, 1 to 4 days. And you can design your weeks however you'd prefer. But on your time off, this is where you're going to be allocating the recovery activities into, okay? So your recovery activities are going to be basically activities designed to recover your mind, body, and spirit, or cultivating deeper connection with your family and friends. So here, what I like to put is going to first and foremost be like helping me personally, because if I don't take care of myself on a personal level, I can't show up for family and friends. I can't show up for clients. I can't even show up in business. So this is about really optimizing you as a human being in your recovery days, to be able to rest, recover, restore your systems, and get back in the zone when you need to. So this also really equates to increased life satisfaction. Absolutely, like there's no exceptions for that really at all. So this might be like nice restorative exercise. This might be planning a fun activity that's outdoors in nature, something maybe even adrenaline pumping, exhilarating for me. I love like racing and go-karts and stuff like that, so that's a big one for me. Could be like paddleboarding out on the lake, could be cliff jumping, skydiving if you're into more extreme stuff. But it can also be more restorative indoor stuff at times too, where you might be doing like float tanks. It might be ice bath. It could be doing more prolonged states of meditation. Going out on a date with your family and friends or your partner. So going out and eating out at a restaurant. Could be going to a movie. Could be horseback riding. Like whatever you find fun, just identify whatever you find fun. And typically what I like to do is go back and visualize yourself as your inner child, okay? Go back to when you were, 10, 12, 13 years old, and what were the things that you just loved to do or wished you could do more of at that time in your life? Because our recovery, we can do the physical things, like I said, the float tanks, ice baths and stuff like that, and that's to just restore, it could be an IV drip, to restore your physiology. But in order to refill your spirit, you've got to connect to the inner child. You've got to do what makes you come alive, that makes you feel amazing. And for me, like I mentioned, that's things like go-karting and getting outside and getting in my body. So for you, that might be something completely different, and that's perfect. But identify what you used to love to do as a kid, and then identify why have you stopped doing that thing? Why have you neglected that part of yourself? And this is about reconnecting to that inner child and, really getting more into that on a consistent weekly basis. And you can also spread a lot of these activities out in your night routines as well, or your wind down periods at nighttime. And that's just going to allow your spirit to feel alive. So when you're walking throughout your day, you're not going to have as much of that depressive or anxiety or stressed feeling within you, because you're getting outside of yourself. You're getting out of your mind and into your body and your spirit and your soul, and you're doing what makes you come alive. So then when you get into work, you've got that beat in your step. You're more joyful. You've got a higher vibration to really penetrate others with. Take that how you will. Penetrate others energetically, not physically, okay? Unless you want to do more of that. That's totally fine too. Another thing here would absolutely be sex and intimacy and getting connected with your partner. So make sure that you're planning these things out. Don't neglect yourself of them, because, oftentimes I've just found that in life we can really start to take life way too fucking seriously, where everything's a grind, everything's a burden. We have to do this, we have to do that. But turn your have-tos into want-tos. And, for a period of time, at the end of the day, there's nothing that you actually have to do. It's all your choice, right? It literally is a choice. You don't have to work. You could literally go live in the Himalayas with the monks and meditate as a full-time job, if that's what you want to do, where you don't really have to buy anything because everything's provided to you there up in the mountains, and you'd be fine. So get out of your head and acknowledge that your entire life, everything that you do, your entire results in your life situation is all a byproduct of what you personally have created. And when you take responsibility for that, it really can help you get out of your self-pity, your victimhood, the burnout cycle, the have to do this, have to do that, and you can turn it into want tos. And if it doesn't align with you anymore, then just stop doing it. Get it out of your life and eliminate it, okay? Because you don't have to do anything, it's all your choice, and you have the power to change your reality, and it all starts with the daily actions that you're executing and pursuing. Then it's your weekly structure and cycles, your monthly cycles, and your quarterly cycles that fit into the annual basis, okay? So this is all about really creating a system and a structure for you that's going to work for you over time to keep yourself on the rails and advancing towards things that you want in your life, to things that you want to create for yourself, your family, your network, your social circles, your clients, and away from the things that really disempower you the most in life. So you can live a fulfilled, joyous life full of like spiritual life force energy that's always coming to you, because you're setting yourself up for success, okay? So that's it for this video. In the next video, it's going to be a shorter one where we're actually talking through how you can map all of this out on the calendar, and yeah, I'll see you right there. So jump over to that one and I'll see you there. Cheers, guys.